I am going to ask you for succinct answers now on all these questions. Gay marriage. It's bound to come here. The controversy's already developed. It's an emotional issue, but there could be state effort in legislation. How do you feel about gay marriage?
Well, I think I'm a co-sponsor of the civil unions bill. I think we should seek equality. People should be judged on their merit, not on who they date. And I think civil unions is a practical approach to start with here in Pennsylvania.
How do you feel about
that? Marriage is it's a family thing between a man and a woman. But the civil union issue is the legislature will vote on it. The civil unions. The mosque.
Now, I ask you this question. Some people think this is a manufactured issue, but there's a lot of emotion about this. Should the mosque has to be built anywhere they want to build it because it's constitutional, but should they be building the mosque in the shadow of
Larry, as somebody who's worked with murder victims, they never have a day that they don't think about it and the impact that that has in their lives. And the opportunity here to have some kind of a reasonable resolution that moves that mosque away from that sort of dedicated holy land has to be the place that they go. We always talk about the rights of folks. How about the rights of those folks who lost their families?
How do you feel about that?
Well, I volunteered to go back in the Army after 9/11, so I understand the significance of the event and the location. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. As you say, obviously under the Constitution they're permitted to do it, but I think it's reasonable to consider the wishes and the concerns of the victims and their families.
Okay, we have basic agreement on Medicare crisis. There's no doubt someday one of you may be in there for 10 or 20 years, that Medicare will come up again, Medicare fund will run out. How does the nation deal with this?
Well, that's one of those issues I look at and say, how's it going to affect Delaware County and the 7th District? Number one employer by a long shot is health care in our district, and hospitals, a key part of that is Medicare, and it helps thousands and thousands of people that we're going to represent. So we have an obligation to preserve it and keep it as the program that it is.
Medicare?
Well, the way to preserve it, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, with Medicare, we've got to fight to preserve Medicare. It's a key thing, but we've got to preserve to hold down costs. I think that was the thing that we missed right from the beginning, was talking about ways to work first at trying to find ways to hold down costs. What I'm concerned about is the way that the bill was produced, and they're suggesting that they're going to find $500 billion worth of savings right now in Medicare. We should have attacked that issue first before getting to the rest of the extension.
Well, and keep in mind, Larry, the party that Pat hopes to join in Washington is advocating privatizing Medicare. So they're not interested in protecting it, they're interested in essentially scrapping it, because privatizing it would end Medicare as we know it.
You agree with that assessment?
Well, I haven't talked about privatizing Medicare. I think this is a fundamental thing.
So you're not a party guy?
I like to think I'm very independent, looking at the issues that we face and taking them on one by one as we move forward.
Well, I'm an independent guy, but the thing is, Larry, Pat has sought out and heralded the fact that he's endorsed by the Tea Party. One of the Tea Party's essential planks is that they want to privatize, and in some cases I had a woman at a town hall the other night tell me she wants to scrap altogether Medicare. That's a Tea Party plank. Well, you can't take the Tea Party's endorsement and say you don't agree with the Tea Party's ideas.
As Ronald Reagan used to say, because somebody stands for something doesn't mean that I have to, I'm happy to have Tea Party support from folks that is no different than folks that I'm getting who are business owners, who are actually guys that are working in unions, who are all saying to me the thing that drives them all together is that they're very enthused about my support for fiscal accountability and those kinds of things. With regard to the Tea Party, I'm not the guy who has put the candidate on the ballot that's supposed to be the Tea Party.
What are you referring to?
Oh, just the ballot wars. But quite honestly, I'm pleased that this isn't even an issue that we brought up in this thing. I'm pleased that Bryan and I are getting a chance to talk about real issues, and we've got plenty of time to talk about this.
Well, but I think it's a real issue because he worked for George Bush, he ran Rick Santorum's campaign. Is he a Rick Santorum, George Bush Republican, or a Tea Party Republican? There's a big difference. And if you take the endorsement of the Tea Party and speak at their rallies, and they say they want to privatize Social Security and privatize Medicare, I think the people have a right to know whether you agree with the Tea Party or disagree with the Tea Party.
How about a question for you? Would you welcome an endorsement from MoveOn.org?
I would welcome an endorsement from the people whose votes I'm seeking, and I have not been going to
MoveOn.org in its own way is as extreme.
And I
as the Tea
disagree with a
Party.
lot of things they've done, but I haven't gone to rallies with MoveOn.org, or you haven't seen press releases from me saying MoveOn.org supports Bryan Lentz. On the other hand, Pat has sought out and is campaigning as a Tea Partier. He's going to come here today and tell you that
there you go. But
You think
that's
that's a
just
reach or what?
factually inaccurate. I'm a Republican candidate running as. I'm happy to have.
You're not a Mama Grizzly, Palin Mama Grizzly?
It's just not right to suggest. I won't. Brian's trying to recast this so he can run against some kind of an objective, but that's not who I am. So I have the. Let's talk about this thing issue through issue. I've said before, to the extent that the Tea Party stands for fiscal accountability and stands for some kind of concern about the growing debt, I'm happy to be siding with those people who share those values.
What about to the extent that they want to privatize Social Security and get rid of the Department of Education?
But MoveOn.org and there's extremes here, guys. We're going to extremes.
Right, but I'm not courting the extreme. I'm out talking about jobs, jobs, and jobs. He's courting the extreme in his party.
But wouldn't it be possible that somebody can endorse, I'm running, let's say, somebody can endorse me, and I might not agree with everything they believe in?
That's true, but when you go to the rallies,
does he look like a Palin Mama Grizzly?
He
here?
doesn't. Which is why I say it's a fair question for people to ask: is he a George Bush Santorum Republican or a Tea Party Republican?
Does he look like an
Larry,
extremist liberal?
That's the great thing about America. You go out everywhere and you talk to people. So when I'm at Union Hall, I'm talking to union guys. And when I'm talking to small business people, I'm there. And when I'm out talking to senior citizens, like I did the day before, everybody has a vote. Everybody's important.
Isn't it
you're
interesting?
Talking with each and every one
Isn't
of
it
them.
interesting, though, if you take a look at both sides of any debate, it seems that, and this is a pretty civil conversation here compared to some we have in America. I've got to congratulate both of you. There's such an extremism, in elections, and everybody's trying to demonize one or the other. You take a look at him, and you look at him as an Obama liberal free spending guy. You look at him as a Bush free spending guy or a Bush tax cut preservation guy. It's not that easy, is it, to either of you?
Well, I don't.
We got a minute here.
Well, extremism isn't where the world is going to make progress. Frankly, the most significant and greatest period of economic growth in America's recent history is when you had Clinton in the White House and a Republican legislature, and when you had Reagan in the White House and a Democrat legislature.
So you're willing to work with the other side?
So I think
Absolutely.
it's getting things done.
I've actually done it, Larry. I've passed legislation on a bipartisan basis, and I think the choice is between Bryan Lentz and Pat Meehan in Delaware County in the 7th District, and they ought to look at who they want representing them at the table in Washington, not who the person's.
Well, good luck to both of you. This has been a very spirited and engaging conversation here in debate, and in my perspective, it rates a 9 out of 10. That's all I can tell you. Remember to vote on November 2nd. Next week, we'll feature the candidates in New Jersey's 3rd, John Adler and John Runyon. You can email me at larrykane.com. Check us out on Facebook. You can also write to me on Twitter. Thanks to the candidates for being here, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you.